ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Seekonk Speedway podcast series. Another episode for the 2021 season. We are getting ready to kick things off on Sunday afternoon, May 2nd, opening day for the NASCAR Advanced Auto Parts Weekly Series with the Pro Stocks, the late models, the Sportsmen, and the Sport Trucks returning to action for the first time since October of 2019. It may have even been September of 2019. It's been a long time since we've seen the Pro Stocks, the late models, the Sportsmen, and the Sport Trucks on the track. Looking forward to seeing them back and looking forward to sitting here with you for a few minutes as we preview the 2021 season. We've got a couple of different podcasts that are either out already or coming out, depending on when you're listening to this, as we preview each of the NASCAR Saturday night divisions. This episode will be centric around the Pro Stock division. We're going to be joined by two special guests later in the show. Kevin Boucher, the voice of Seekonk Speedway, will join us for some insight. And Lenny Ellis, the race director on Saturday night and former Pro Stock champion as well, is going to join us as part of this specific podcast and all of our division previews. My name is Kyle Souza, the owner of Souza Media, handling a lot of the public relations, write-ups, and everything else that goes on at the track, along with Ed St. Germain. Anything that's written is pretty much done by me. If you've never met me before, well, you're going to get to meet me over the course of the 2021 season. You're going to hear my voice a lot over the year as part of the podcast series. Now, on the Pro Stock division, returning for the first time since 2019, everybody's got their eyes on David Darling, and there's no reason why you shouldn't have your eyes on that veteran who's won just about everything there has to offer in the Pro Stocks. He's won just about 75% of the races over the last couple years, and he's won the last three Pro Stock championships as well, looking to grab an elusive 8th Seekonk title this year and break the record books in the process. Nobody has done it. Nobody's got 8 titles. Dave Darling is going to try to do that this year with Ronnie Pond, Gary Johnson, his dad Wayne, and of course Jeff Bellier as well as his crew chief. Most wins in the history of the Pro Stock division since the inception in 1978 for Dave Darling, and he's going to look to increase that even more and become a champion for the 8th time now. Let's look at some of the challengers. It's not all about Dave Darling and the Pro Stocks. It may have seemed that way in the last couple of years, but there are plenty of other drivers here that are going to be in contention. For me, you look at the top 2 drivers to knock him off, might be 2 former late model champions, Dylan Estrella and Ryan Vaness. Now, both of these guys have experience and wins in the Pro Stocks. Dylan Estrella a little bit less experienced than Vaness. Estrella actually won in his debut race in the Pro Stocks back at the beginning of the 2019 season, so he is going to be ready and coming out with a fire lit under him to try to knock Dave Darling off the top. Multiple wins for Estrella in the Everett's Auto Parts machine in his debut year, so looking forward to seeing what he can do. And the wily veteran, Ryan Rocket Vaness, he is going to be a challenger behind the wheel of that number 11. Looking forward to seeing him return as he sets a little bit of his focus to Friday night again with his son, Ryan Vaness Jr. and the Bandoleros, but also looking for Ryan to compete at a high level in our Pro Stock division in 2021. Outside of those two, another former late model champion, Mike Brightman, is registered. Freddie Estelle, a multiple-time Seekonk Speedway champion, I believe a 6-time champion, Freddie Estelle Jr., driving for Everett's Auto Parts. He is going to be back in the number 30 and shown speed at some of the preseason practice that's already going on, so looking forward to seeing what he can do behind the wheel. Also, some other names to watch. There's a ton of them. Kenny Spencer returning full-time behind the wheel after winning the championship a good 5 or 6 years ago. Took a little bit of time away. Couldn't shake the itch. He's coming back to go full-time in the Pro Stock division. Don't count out names like Tom Scully Jr., a former champion, Rick Martin, a former multiple-time champion of this division. Both of those guys veterans and know how to get the job done. Ryan Kuhn, running a partial schedule this year in the Pro Stock division. Ryan has announced recently as a Kowicki Driver Development Program finalist. That's Alan Kowicki's deal there. Of course, remembering the late Alan Kowicki, who passed away many years ago, but they continue in his honor. Ryan's chasing a prize championship of over $54,000, and Seekonk could play a role in that with some of his best finishes. So look for him to run a partial schedule. Ryan Lionham going to run some races behind the wheel of the Richard Sprague Prepared number 10. Names like Dick Benoit and Danny Cabral are back for another year. behind the wheel of the 44 and the 47. Former Sport Truck regular Dave Simpson actually is moving up to the Pro Stocks this year. Quite a jump from the trucks to the Pro Stocks, and you wonder why that big of a jump. He won the car as part of a sweepstakes that Kyle Casper put up, and Simpson picking up the car basically for just a couple $100, and he's going to be making his debut in Seekonk's top division behind the wheel. Mark Jennison, a former late model winner, is planning to jump full time to the Pro Stock, so look for him to be a major contender this year. Other drivers to keep watch on: Colby Fournier coming back. Similar to Kenny Spencer, it's been a while for Colby before making his return in 2021. He's been running in the modified ranks with the Tri-Track Series and the Modified Racing Series and some of the open modified shows. He's coming back to the Pro Stock division this year as well. You look up and down the roster: Darrell Stanfill, one name to keep an eye on this year. Bobby Pellin is registered for another run at the campaign. Mark Henshaw and Elmer Wing making returns possibly in 2021. You've got guys like Kevin Casper in the Phil's Propane 88, who will be a factor when he does run. Bob Hussey, Billy Jarez, the list goes on and on. In a stout field of pro stocks, and the first time we've really seen the pro stock division evolve this much over the last couple years, jumping from the bump stops to the no bump stops. If you have no idea what the rules are and you're not a technical person, disregard the bump stops. The cars look the same, they race a little bit better, and there's more cars in the field without the bump stops based on the roster we're seeing here for 2021. So it should be an exciting year in the Pro Stock division. You're asking for a championship pick going into the year. It's got to be, for me, Dave Darling, seeing what he's been able to do. But there's a lot of guys that are going to be eligible to knock him off the top. Now, we're going to take a quick break as part of the Pro Stock Division preview, and going to welcome in our first special guest, Kevin Boucher, around the turn. Kevin's going to talk with us about the season, and then we're going to welcome in Lenny Ellis, the Saturday Night Race Director, who will join us to talk about the Pro Stocks, and we will wrap up from there. Keep an eye on our social media channels and our podcast series for the remainder of the divisions. But for now, let's take a quick break. We will be right back to join with Kevin Boucher. All right, welcome back from the break as we preview the 2021 season at Seekonk Speedway. So great to get ready to get back going here in a couple days as we get ready for opening day. I am now joined by the race voice himself, Kevin Boucher. I mentioned before the break, we're going to hear from him to talk about each division as part of the podcast series. We're starting off with the Pro Stock Series, you already know. And Kevin, want to bring you in to talk about this division. You've been around the Pro Stocks for more years than me, but it seems like here in the last 4 or 5 years, Dave Darling has just put a butt whooping on this field. And I don't know about you, I don't really see it slowing down too much here as we get into 2021.
Well, there's been a situation, a little bit of a personal quandary coming into this year with the epidemic and the pandemic and everything that's going on with the quarantines. He's a businessman first, but he really does love the racing. As much as people kind of sit there and wonder what he does outside the box, he's always focused when he gets behind the wheel. When it gets down to the nitty gritty, he is going to be the man to beat. When he sits down and focuses, he's going to be the guy that everybody's chasing, and they're all getting used to that over the last several years. I don't see that slowing down either coming into 2021.
Yeah, I agree. Knowing what Dave's done over the last couple of years with the dominance, it's hard to see him slowing down. But I think there's a couple guys, Kevin, that could really be contenders to slow him down. Freddie Estelle hasn't quite won as much in the last couple of years, hasn't been as fast, but a little bit of rejuvenation from last year with the pandemic. He could be a factor. You look at Ryan Vaness, who's been really strong in the pro stocks, of course, is a former late model champion as well. But the big one for me, I don't know about you, is Dylan Estrella. Talking to him over the last couple of weeks, his excitement level is there, and we've seen him beat David in a race at least once, straight up. I think he's going to be, for me, the main guy we're going to be watching when it comes time to decide the champion.
Well, Dylan's definitely going to be there. The confidence level for this youngster is high, and people forget, yes, he is a two-time late model champion, but he's a four-time champion at Seekonk, going all the way back to the Mini Cup days. A very close second in the sport trucks, and, a certain change there. He missed a race. It could be a 5-time champion coming into this year. So Dylan is one of those youngsters that really has been on top of the game since the first time he got behind the steering wheel. A little bit of a learning curve with the pro stocks over the first year or two, but now he is up on his game as well as David is. And all he needs is a little bit of luck. Don't forget, he's found that backstretch wall a couple of times over the last couple of years, and that's cost him in the final tally. You take away those, and he is pushing David to the finish line, if not being chased by David when it comes down to it. But when you look at the roster, yes, you talked about Ryan. He's been getting stronger and stronger. To me, I got to say, one of the dark horses coming into this year is Kenny Spencer. Coming back after a few years' absence, he's got a new car he put together over the last couple of years. I really think he's going to be one of those right at the end, along with Rick Martin, along with Freddie, along with Dylan, when we get down to September and it's championship chase time.
Yeah, I mean, this division's got a couple guys, and you're right. I mean, Kenny Spencer's right there as well. You got Tom Scully Jr. as well. There's a couple kind of guys that might jump in and out here during the year. You got Mike Brightman returning, Mark Jennison jumping up to the pro stock and planning to run full time. He's been really successful in the late models overall. And then we've got the staple drivers, Kevin, in this division as well. Danny Cabral, Dick Benoit returning, Ryan Kuhn making an appearance for at least a partial schedule. You got Bob Hussey, you got Billy Jars, you got Kevin Casper returning for at least a partial schedule. A guy like Darrell Stanfield, Colby Foy. I mean, the list just goes on and on in the pro stock division as far as 2021 goes, with so many different names kind of thrown in the mix here to see what happens. So should be interesting. Got David Simpson as well. Want to throw him in there as the rookie of the year contender, and really one of the few rookies that's going to be running in this division. So, Kevin, before we let you go for the Pro Stock edition, let's put you on the spot. Who wins the Pro Stock Championship? Is it Dave Darling, you think, that dominates again and ends up back at the head table?
You know, if I'm putting money on the season, it's got to be on him because he has been money. If you look over his pro stock career, which has been about 14 years, he has won half of the championships. And going into 2021, yeah, we had a season off. Everybody's been able to focus and get everything up to 100%. But David's 100% is always just a little bit higher than everybody else's. Yeah, I'd have to say David is going to be the guy at the end of the year, unless somebody else steps up and decides to play spoiler, and that is always a possibility. We talked about several contenders for that, but David is just always so prepared. They say races are won in the shop, and with Jeff Bellier and Ronnie Fond and Gary Johnson and everybody else there, it's tough to bet against a team like that.
Yeah, I agree. It's going to be tough to bet against Dave Darling, and it's going to be tough to bet against guys like Dylan Estrella and Ryan Van Ness when it comes to feature wins. A lot of different drivers in this division going to be a factor in 2021. Thanks to Kevin for joining us as part of the Pro Stock Division preview for the 2021 season. We will hear from him again with the late models, the Sportsman, and the Sport Trucks. Want to thank all of our sponsors that are helping to make the Pro Stock Division possible, and all of our competitors for preparing for 2021. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk to another special guest as part of the Pro Stock Division preview. That's going to be Mr. Lenny Ellis, the race director and former champion of this division. Joins us right around the turn. Stick with us. Welcome back from the break. Just speaking with Kevin Boucher a few moments ago, the voice of the Seekonk Speedway, getting his insight on the make that the 4 Saturday night divisions at Seekonk for 2021 as we preview the 2021 season, specifically here in the Pro Stock episode. Want to welcome in our next guest and our final guest of the Pro Stock episode, and that'll be race director Lenny Ellis, who's a former champion of the Pro Stock division and been around it his whole life. Now, Lenny, you've watched what Dave Darling has done the last 5-6 years and the dominance he's put together. We heard in the last segment, Kevin kind of felt like he was going to be the top dog again, and it was going to take a lot for somebody to be able to knock him off. But what have you seen from him, and how do you think he's been able to be this successful here in a short period of time?
Well, he's got an awesome crew behind him, and pretty good backing as far as, money goes. And, he's just got a really good system over there that they've worked on for quite a while, and it's going to be hard to beat. But one of these years, there's somebody that's going to take it away from him.
Yeah, I mean, there's got to be somebody here that's around the turn that's going to be able to knock him off the top. We mentioned with Kevin, guys like Kenny Spencer, Kevin brought up, returning this year full time. Ryan Vaness has always been there in the past. Dylan Estrella, who I know you're very familiar with as well, has been there. And then you got guys like Freddie Estelle, Rick Martin. I mean, is there one or two guys in this division that you look at to be the favorites to kind of be that one that takes him off the top?
Well, I mean, it's first of all, we've got the biggest amount of people that have signed up to uh, participate at Seekonk in the Pro Stocks this year in probably a lot of years. So there's new people, there's rookies, there's people that were running and they've come back. We've lost a couple, but I mean, I was at the first practice, and excuse me, I was at the first practice, and Freddie looked exceptional. Uh, so he's got a brand new motor, I think, all rebuilt, and car was a good car, and they went completely through it from one end to the other. It's just, it's part of luck. I mean, if Ryan Kuhn's going to run with us, probably 7, 8, 9 times. He's got Freddie's old car, and if he was running the whole season, I believe it or not, I'd peg him to be one of the guys to possibly unseat Mr. Dave.
Yeah. Ryan's as Lenny mentioned, is going to be running at least a partial schedule. We'll see where that goes over the course of the year. People say they're going to run a partial schedule, and then they jump in over the course of the year and maybe run a little bit more. I mean, Lenny, you know Dylan Estrella pretty well. We talked to him as part of another podcast a couple of weeks ago, but you've seen some strong things from him as well. And as a former late model champion, do you think he's somebody that we should be watching to kind of be that guy to take him off the top?
He's got all the tools. He's more experienced. They've got the finances behind them. They have whatever they need as far as parts. His people in the pits are not quite as experienced as the Ronnie Ponds and the Jeff Bulliers, but they bring a top notch car there every week. If he has luck and stays within himself, he'll definitely be. Well, he's been there. He's been second and third. I mean, he'll be there to unseat him. It comes down to using your head and doing stuff to make sure that every week you got to finish the races. You got to be there. You got to be there at the end. My thing of it is that if some of these people race Dave Darland a little bit different than they've raced him the last few years, he's still going to win his share of races. There's no doubt. There's talent there. Cream comes to the top. But if some of these people, if they go nonstop, and Mike Brightman's a dark horse. I mean, he spent a lot of money on his car. He's won championships in late models and other things. So I mean, there's a lot of people. You're going to have to just see who's got the luck, who uses their head. You never see Dave Darland put himself in a bad spot. He waits for the things to open up, and he's got such a superior. He's a great driver, and they got an awesome crew. And it's tough to beat, but you get some of that luck, and you stop putting some pressure on him. People make mistakes.
Yeah, It's gonna be interesting to see as we get ready for 2021. Lenny, you mentioned, the division count here is really high, over 20 cars registered. I mean, you got to be excited too. When you first came back on board here a couple years ago, you were very adamant about. I don't want to say saving the pro stock division, but honestly, at that time, it was kind of falling apart with a low car count. And it's grown back here with a strong contingent of drivers set to come. You got guys like Mark Jennison, planning to run full time. Dave Simpson coming up from the sport trucks as well. You got to be excited to see what this pro stock division has formed into here in the last 4 or 5 years.
Oh, I really am. I mean, and the more people, I think we had to simplify it a little bit. There's a place everywhere for Pass and for Granite State, but it's not Seekonk. Seekonk's got a pro stock division. There was only a few people that understood what was being done. Matter of fact, as far as I'm concerned, there was one team that really understood the bump stops, the bump springs, the whole gamut of it. Okay. Unfortunately, we're leaving some real good competitors like Kevin Casper. I don't know if he's going to run. Last time I talked to him, he wasn't sure whether he was going to run Granite State, Seekonk a little bit of everything. But we'll see. I mean, if some of these guys, all it takes is, a young Bobby Pellin or somebody to come out and beat Dave Darling opening day, and all of a sudden, these guys are running almost all year long to try to beat him. I mean, it's how it goes. It's just how it is. Dave's probably be the guy that runs there consistent. He's got 4 or 5 cars, so he can run other places. But I think you'll still see Dave, defending his championship.
Yeah, Pro Stock Division going to be interesting as we get ready to roll into 2021 to see what happens. Does anybody knock Dave Darling off the top? That's going to be the question as we move into this season, and we're going to find out starting on Sunday, May 2nd. The Pro Stocks are back after a year off due to the COVID pandemic. Kenny Spencer, Dave Darling, Freddie Estelle, Dick Benoit, Dave Darling, again, you got to mention him 2, 3, 4 times in the list, as he's definitely going to be the favorite to try to win an elusive 8th Seekonk Championship. Thanks to Lenny Ellis for joining us as part of the Pro Stock Division podcast to preview the 2021 season, and thanks to Kevin Boucher as well for the Pro Stock Division podcast. That's it. Good luck on the Pro Stock drivers for the 2021 season. I am picking Dave Darling to return to championship form. We will find out what happens starting in May and rolling through the month of September. For Lenny Ellis and Kevin Boucher, I'm Kyle Souza. Thanks for joining us as part of the Pro Stock Division preview, and we look forward to seeing you at the track.